Hello, and welcome to Digital Decode with Carla. My name is Laura Walubengo, and I am your host for this podcast, where we'll be diving into anything that has to do with technology in Africa. And the aim of this podcast is for us to be able to decode anything that's happening digitally on the continent. As you know, the future of this continent is steeped in technology, and so you better be listening. What we're trying to do here is make sure that you're enlightened and inspired. Hello and welcome to Digital Decode. I am your host, Laura Walubengo, and today we are discussing, as usual, tech and tech innovation. We have a special guest today. Her name is Sharon Wata. She's an IP lawyer, and she's also the Deputy Director of Research and Training at the Kenya Copyright Board. Now, today's episode is part of a special series that we're doing with Innovate Kenya Tech, and you're most welcome. Now, over to you. Hello, Sharon. How are you?
Fine, thank
Could you please introduce yourself and tell the guests who you are?
Yeah, you already said my name, Sharon Wata. I'm an IP lawyer. I've worked in the copyright space for 17 years. I also teach part-time at the university, Digital School of Law, IP-related courses. And right now I work at the Kenya Copyright Board as a deputy director in charge of training and research.
Okay.
I've been a copyright prosecutor, no longer doing that.
Wow.
But yeah, just been in this space for a while.
So how did you get there? And why copyright? What is your interest in it?
I think at LLB level, that's your degree, law. You really don't know what you want to do. So I did my law degree, ventured a bit into environmental law. I thought that was my interest. And so I got into the copyright space by oops. I got a job that was in a collective management organization that protected rights and collected royalties for publishers and authors. And so at that point, the interest came. So I worked there for 8 years, got a lot of training, got the interest, went and did my master's in IP law. And that's how I got there. Then I crossed over to government. And that's how I've been in this space.
That's interesting. How did you know? Fine, you worked in that space for 8 years, but at what point did it just click that this is actually something that you'd like to invest in? What was it about copyright that really drew you in?
Okay, one of the things is that I'm also a creative. I used to do art. In campus, yes, and a little after. I used to do paintings in town, during Christmas on windows.
Yeah.
I also
did that
sing,
too.
I know, to make some money. I also sing. I've sung with different groups, with
nice.
Kigame, with certain other people groups. And I sing in my church now, more as just church. So I'm a creative in myself. So when I started working at that organization, their idea was to get a young person who could run the organization. And they said, whether you know copyright or not, we will train you. We'll be there. We'll make sure that you know. So the training began when I started working there. And I was working a lot with authors and publishers. And so the interest just came. And being a creative myself, it just made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the interest came. And that's how I found myself in this space.
I guess even with the people that you interact with who would procure, I guess, your services or would need your advice and guidance, they're able to resonate with the fact that you are also a creative and you understand what they're going through.
Yeah.
But what are some of the challenges that, it makes it really important to have an IP lawyer?
The biggest challenge is that most creatives don't understand their rights and protecting other people's rights. So you find sometimes in the process of creating, you're also infringing on other people's rights. So you need to create without infringing. A good case, there's lots of us who like to do cover songs, and then we'll just put their cover by Laura Walubengo, but you haven't asked for my permission to do the cover songs. The law as is, the copyright law is that you need permission to do a cover song. And if you look, most cover songs do not have permissions. And the reason is that sometimes cover songs blow up more than the original. And so you need to have gotten the permission. Probably also the owner, the original owner, needs to earn something. A good case, Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You.
Yeah.
It was not her original, yeah? You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
The original person was Dolly Parton.
Oh.
So she got a license to do the cover, and Dolly Parton received royalties. And I read that part of what she did with the money she's been receiving from the cover was that she got a safe house for Black women in a Black neighborhood. So that's how big a cover song could blow up. And that's why you need the permissions. So one of the challenges, most of us and most creatives don't know their rights, and they don't know when they're infringing. The other thing I've seen is contracts. It's a big problem. A lot of creatives sign a lot of contracts that are not good for them, and they don't understand them. And sometimes you sign away your rights without knowing. I know a Kenyan musician who signed out her song. She was supposedly licensing the song for 3 years to be used by a certain company. And she signed to have them pay her 400K, which they did. In the first year alone, her song made 1 million shillings. By the end of the 4 years, her song had made like over 3 million. But she had already signed a contract to be paid 400K. When she was desperate, she needed the money.
Yeah.
But this is an issue I've come across over and over again. The kind of contracts you signed to give away your rights, yeah? So contracts is a very big issue when it comes to this space of the creatives, yeah.
And now when you talk about cover songs, and you've mentioned, of course, Dolly Parton and Whitney Houston, but a lot of cover songs cross borders.
Yes.
When it comes to copyright law, is there a distinction, or do we have something across the board? Because I guess there's also cases of Kenyan creatives being fleeced, so to speak, by international artists.
So we have an international treaty that countries sign. And if Kenya signs a treaty, basically they are saying we agree with this treaty and we will align. So how do we align? We make sure when we have signed a treaty, the provisions in that treaty reflect in our law. The only difference is that I will not be able to use Kenyan law, say, in Uganda. So if my work was infringed upon in Uganda, I would have to go there to use their law to get justice, to go to court, yeah? But I need to respect works of foreigners here the way I respect Kenyan works, and my works need to be respected in another country the way they respect their locals, so to speak, yeah. So what is common is the international law, which we all have signed. The only practicality of it is that if I had to go and assert my rights in another country, I would have to use their laws. So I'd have to find an IP lawyer in that place and sue. It's possible, yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a case between a Nigerian artist and a Kenyan artist some time back. Just out of curiosity, probably I feel inspired and I decide to do a cover for a Kanye West song. How do I get in touch with Kanye West?
You would have to ask for the permission. In the absence of asking for permission, don't use it.
Don't use it.
And this is the
There's
example.
no place where I can say I've kept your royalties for you.
No. The problem is when it blows up. It looks okay when it's not a very famous thing and when it doesn't blow up. But the moment it does, it's a problem. Also, you don't know if that person wants their song used in that manner, because part of the rights that copyright gives you is for you to decide how you want your song used or not. I know some time back it was said that Kuna Dawa song used to be played in pubs and whatever. And this is a gospel song.
Yeah.
So part of the rights that copyright gives them is that you can object to your song being used in a manner you do not want.
Really?
Yes. So if somebody used your song in a beer advert and you're a Christian and that's not what you advocate for, you would have a right to complain. So part of that permission is I need to know what use you're putting my work to and agree to it. Because it has to be in line with my values and my brand. But secondly, also, I need to get monetary compensation from whatever work that you create, because whatever you're creating is a derivative work from the original. So I also need to be compensated for that, yeah? So you need permission. If you can't find Kanye West, then you leave it.
You just leave it. Or you sing for guys in your house.
I know. The easiest place to start would be with government copyright offices or CMOs in that country.
Okay.
Because most probably that creative is a member of a CMO or they're in a government database. So probably that office would be a good place to start looking for someone. Finding permissions is not as difficult as it sounds. Sometimes it's a matter of an email. Yeah, sometimes it's a matter of, hi, Laura, I like your song. Can I use it? And your response is, what do you want to use it for? Good, go ahead. That's permission enough. It's written, you can prove. Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to music, I guess because we see it a lot more, it's easier to understand. But what about when it comes to publishing? When it comes to books and things like that? Because even when you're writing an article digitally, the plagiarism is a real issue.
Yes, yeah.
So how do you deal with that?
The easiest place to start with permissions with publishing is the publisher. And publishing companies are well printed on the books. And so they're easy to reach out to. So if you want to find an author, it's easier to find the publisher. Once you find the publisher, you probably find the author. Yeah. So it's also possible to do that. The hard place is when it comes to software. I'm sure you know software is, I don't know if you know rather, that it's copyrightable. So finding
I guess owners, when you create an app.
May not be easy. When you create an app, when you create a computer program or any software, you can register that for copyright. So those are the group that I think may be difficult to find if you're looking for that, but you need permission. The example I always give people, Laura, is that like today, if I didn't come with my car and I want to leave, I have to get permission to use your car.
Yeah.
I can't just be like, hey guys, I have an emergency, need to get rush to the hospital.
I pick your key and bounce.
And I pick your key and bounce. I probably become a thief, yeah?
That's exactly what happens.
It is the same thing because copyright is intellectual property. Just like a car is a property and a house. If I was going to use your house, I'd have to ask for permission. So that's the bit that we miss with copyright and IP, intellectual property, is that the word intellectual, then property, it denotes the same thing, property. And it needs to be respected in the same way. Yeah.
So the fact that you've been in this industry for 17 years, you said, what are some of the emerging trends that you're seeing? I assume that a lot more people are aware of the intellectual property and how to protect it because now that you have this booming creative industry, you have to protect how you earn your income.
Yeah.
What are some of the changes or the trends that you've seen over time?
Oh, the biggest is digital. We are now in the digital space. Especially like when it comes to music, we've gone digital. So you're no longer doing CDs and infringing on CDs. We are digital, we're on digital platforms. That's a game changer. It's a game changer in that initially you, Laura, if you're a musician, you needed a middleman to sell your CD, who could be a shop, who could be whatever, it could be yourself. But now you are connecting with your audience directly. You have removed the middleman. And social media is helping you to reach even more people. And the digital platforms, they're helping you to reach even more people. So there's potential to make money, but there's also a bigger potential for infringement. Very, very big potential for infringement. So the changing trends, even with books, we are now, I see that the reading culture, especially in Kenya, I don't know about Africa, but in Kenya, it is very low. And so right now, I'd rather have an ebook or an audiobook. Somebody just read this book for me, you know? And their ebooks also. So they've also gone digital. I think the only books we're still doing physical are educational books in schools, in primary schools and high schools. But mostly even university, we've gone digital. But that means also there's lots of potential for infringement. I told you I teach part-time at the university, and there are times you give an assignment and all somebody needs to do is put the question on Google and the answers that come up. I once did that somewhere I was teaching and everybody had the same answers because everybody put the question in Google and copy-pasted exactly what came up first. So that is a challenge in itself, yeah? There's a way in which now the digital space is helping us to do faster, to reach more people, to make more money, but it is also opening us up to infringement, a lot of infringement, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, when you talk about now, I mean the digital space, the digital animal, and the new kid on the block, not very new, but new to us, which
Yeah.
is your AI.
Yeah.
And I can sit here and I produce a song and I put your voice in it. And then there you are singing a song somewhere in Bungoma, and you
I
wonder
know.
how you got there. How do you how can the Kenya Copyright Board, and how do you in your opinion see the what's needed to be able to deal with this massive monster?
I think the first thing is to put in place the right policies, legal policies and laws that will guide you. Because as you say, this is a new monster. And so you need to put in place guidelines. Yeah. But also, it's a dynamic monster, it keeps changing. So you will need to keep up with that. The only collision that AI has with intellectual property is that for intellectual property protection, protection is granted to an author, owner, an innovator, who, in the eyes of the law, is a person, a physical person, or a legal person. By that I mean, like, a company can own a copyright and all that. A natural person like you can own. So the question around AI has been, whatever is created by a machine, do you grant the rights to a machine? But as IP laws are right now, you grant to an owner who is a person. Then there's a question of, when it comes to IP, there's a question of creativity, like in copyright. How do you define that creativity and originality? Because part of what makes your thing qualify for copyright protection is originality and creativity. So if I just have a machine that I just need to feed it information and it creates whatever, does that fit into creativity and originality or not, you know? So those are conversations that are still going on internationally at the World Intellectual Property Organization around AI and IP, where it collides, where it can collaborate. I think AI tools can be good to assist to do many things. I was once in an AI conference, and there was a script writer who said that for him, he has not felt threatened by AI, like it's going to take away my job, but he has managed to use it to just halve the time he uses to make his scripts, for example. So he still does the work, but then he's using AI tools to help him do the work a little faster. Yeah. Which to him now, he's looking at it like, how can I leverage on these tools just to make my work better and faster? So I guess it's the lens through which you look at it. AI tools could be good to help you do certain things, but can they now replace the human person in the whole equation? And I think that's a big question. And if it does replace the human person, would it still qualify for intellectual property protection? Because within intellectual property protection and the question of ownership, there needs to be somebody, a person in between. Yeah.
I mean, considering that these policies and these regulations are only now being debated, is there usually a timeline, or does the World Intellectual Property Organization have certain timelines or specific dates when they give an update, for lack of a better word? So do we have timelines on when we can see any kind of regulation dealing with AI?
I don't think there are timelines, because remember, the World Intellectual Property Organization is like a specialized UN agency that has member countries. And so the only chance you have to have these discussions at a global level is when you bring all these people to a meeting in Geneva to have those discussions, which may not be possible every other day. But I think they have so many meetings around copyright, around patents, around trademarks and enforcement. So whenever there is a chance to have a meeting, then they would always have these events where they have a discussion on AI, a discussion on this. when you're talking about an international instrument like a treaty, oh my God, Laura, it could take years. Right now, WIPO has been discussing a copyright treaty for more than 20 years. Because whenever there's like, say, two meetings in a year. And at this particular meeting, one of them, you'll be discussing one clause, which you have to get global consensus.
Yeah, it's not easy.
You have to get, so it takes so many years. I know that the Ministry of ICT came up with a strategy on AI for Kenya. Yeah. So such policies and such strategies would help in terms of knowing where we want to go as a nation regarding the issue of AI. I know in Kenya we have a strategy that has been done by the Ministry of ICT.
Yeah, it was launched just the other day. Yeah. So you do have the opportunity to create something locally as you wait for, let's say,
of course.
a global.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
of course.
Okay.
You have an opportunity always. I mean, countries are sovereign territories.
Exactly.
You always have an opportunity to create your own local things. Sometimes you even find that you're ahead of the global platform in terms of some of the things you do, which is still okay.
Yeah.
It's just that whenever then there's an international instrument, you want to look at it and see how you align because markets are global. And so if you stick to your own space, you may affect people selling in the markets that are global. Yeah.
That's interesting. Before I go to my next question, so how would I protect my podcast if I needed to?
Oh, you can copyright your podcast. Yeah.
Okay.
So part of the things that copyright protects are, of course, musical works, which everybody knows, which is easy. Books, those are literary works, written, whatever is written. And then we have what we are calling audiovisual, which could be a music video, it could be a film, could be a TV program, could be a podcast.
It could be a podcast.
Yes. So you protect the recording.
Protect the recording.
Yeah. If you have a script, you would protect the script separately as a literary work.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, for example, if now we were just not having a discussion, but we have a script we are reading from, that script would be protected as a literary work. But the recording of the podcast is protected as an audiovisual work.
As an audiovisual work.
Yes.
So you cannot copy what we're saying in this conversation if it were protected. Like,
yes.
That's what, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The whole idea of, say, a program or a podcast is what now you're protecting that particular episode. So you would actually have to, I had someone ask you what episode number is this,
Yeah.
You would actually can protect all your 40 episodes separately because every work is separate. You're discussing different things with different people. So that episode is different from the other one.
So can you copyright, and this is a random question, but can you copyright the idea behind your podcast? Or that's a different
you
story.
Cannot copyright an idea. For example, you cannot say the idea of having a podcast around tech and whatever is
just mine.
Nobody else can do that. No. And that's the reason why if you watch, say, many programs across different TV stations, you'll see a program, say, around property. I saw there's a time there was that thing, in Kenya, every TV station is showing a program around property.
Yeah.
So that's the idea, that I'm going to do a program around real estate and property. So you're not protecting that idea, but you're protecting your particular program that you produce. And if you watch across the board the different episodes, the program becomes different because of the presenter, because of the kind of things you're featuring. I could do a program around property in Kibera. Someone else could do in Runda. It's different, whatever sides of that property and real estate. So you're not protecting the idea so that you're saying nobody else will ever do something around property. No, you're only protecting what you have produced as that program. So that's how copyright works. You don't protect the idea.
That'll be too much.
Yeah. I mean, we draw ideas from inspiration from what we see around us every day.
Exactly.
So you're not the only genius in the world. Like, I came up with this. Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because I was launching a movement the other day, and there's a name that I came up with, and I was very happy with that name. And of course, you just do a Google search to see how many organizations have that name, and it's crazy. There's a in the States there's a company that does supplements, sports supplements, and then in the UK it's a bus drivers organization. But I just decided I'm going to stick with the name.
What you can do with the name is probably create a logo around it. Then you can register it for a trademark.
Okay.
Yeah, but it would be a trademark you want to use for a business.
Yeah.
Because they even ask you what class of goods or services are you going to be offering. So you could do that with a trademark so that nobody else can register that trademark in Kenya and use it for their business. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. I think I'll take you up on that. There's one thing that people say that getting a copyright and even just hiring an IP lawyer is extremely expensive. What would you say if that?
First of all, how copyright works? How you get the copyright is creating. So then my idea has to move from my head into that song, into that book. The moment I publish it, or even I have a manuscript, I can get a copyright. And it's not the action of registration that gives you a copyright. It's the action of you creating. So already creating this podcast, shooting this podcast, once it's recorded, you have a copyright. You can go a step further and register. And Kenya Copyright Board does that registration online. And right now it costs nothing. Before that, it was costing only 100 bob. So it's not expensive. It's not.
Okay.
We and that's part of how we have leveraged on technology to do registration. Initially, you would come to our office with a CD and you fill a form and you wait for I don't know how long. Yeah. Now we have an online platform that you can actually just create an account and then you register, you upload that podcast, the recording, and you can get a copyright certificate in even one day.
Wow. Yeah,
so that's easy to do, and right now it's free. But what is gazetted in our rates for payment is 100 bob. So it's not a must even to do that registration for you to have a copyright. Still, if somebody infringed on this podcast, you could still sue. You could still go to court and have justice for that. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not the registration that's giving you the copyright. So registration is very free. I mean, it's easy. It's easy to do.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our portal is NRR, National Rights Registry.copyright.go.ke.
National Rights Registry.
Yeah, NRR. But it's short in NRR.copyright.go.ke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, it's nice that you've spoken about the tech upgrades that you've had in terms of the registration.
Yeah.
So when you use the word innovation and tech with regards to the Copyright Board, what does that mean for you?
As I told you earlier, software, computer programs are copyrightable. So whenever you're talking about innovation and tech, mostly for copyright, it would fit around software and computer programs. So the apps that people are creating, you can register that for copyright and the computer programs. And that's usually the source code. That's what you're protecting. Because I understand, I'm not very techy, but I understand that the source codes are usually that's what would be unique in your creation from the other persons. So you can come and register that. We have dealt with a few software infringement cases, mostly around software that is used maybe in schools, in hospitals.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You will find somebody will come to report that their software is being infringed. One of the things I have seen is that in Kenya, most people don't buy original software. I mean, even just the Kaspersky, the whatever antivirus. Yeah. Most people don't buy the original software. You get a cheaper software that is an infringement to the original. So we have had a few cases around software infringement. A lot of it is used in schools and in hospitals. You know nowadays how you go to hospital and we no longer do the writing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The doctor will be talking to you and typing, send you to the lab. When you go to the lab, you
They
give
have
your
your
name, they
details.
can get the
Yeah.
data. So that whole program, that is a system, a software system. So you will find that most of the time they just replicate in other hospitals or schools, that they don't buy the original software. So those are some of the matters that we deal with a lot in terms of infringement and enforcement. Maybe at this point I should mention that Copyright Board, part of our mandate is enforcement. So you're able to come as Laura and make a report that my software is being infringed somewhere. And we have officers, we have a team of officers, enforcement officers, who are seconded from the National Police Service. They've been with us, they've trained around the area of copyright. So they'll go and do enforcement for you. The Act empowers them to enter a premise, to inspect computers, see if the software is genuine or whatever. Seize the computers, arrest you, and take the matter to court. Yeah.
I guess it's interesting then, because when people are creating software, you create software based on a need. So if you've seen a specific software that works at a hotel or in a restaurant, then there's certain elements of that software that you can create and put in your own.
Yeah.
So is that infringement, or that's just you're creating your own?
No. As long as you've created your own, you're okay. The infringement would be just picking the other person's software and maybe changing the interface a bit. Like one of the matters we have dealt with, which we tried to mediate, was that these two guys were working together. They had a company. One of them is a software developer. The other guy was more a marketer, business person. So they were creating softwares for hospitals to manage their hospitals. And so this marketing guy is the one finding the hospitals to use, and mostly to small hospitals, like within estates, even out of town. And so they were able to sell the software. Then these two guys split, parted ways. So this business person is still walking around with that software, selling in as far as Uganda.
Wow.
But this is the software developer. And this guy, what he did, he just took the software, had someone change the interface a bit, change a bit of stuff, but the source code was the same. And that was part of my schooling about
source codes.
Yes, because part of the mediation meeting was presenting the different software source code side by side. And the original owner was showing you, even this mistake was here. It is here.
Wow.
And some of the mistakes, apparently you'd put there a letter, not a mistake, as an identifier for him on his source code. And you're able to tell, okay, you just can't have the same mistake I have.
Yeah, true.
So the problem is just picking that same source code, because if you pick that same source code and this is the same, then that's the infringement. But just the idea that I can create a software that can be used in hospitals, most of them, the concept is the same.
Yeah, because you're doing the same thing.
Exactly. You want a software that will manage your hospital, your patients, your whatever, your lab. Every hospital wants that. So the concept is the same, the idea is the same, but the source code, Laura, is never the same. It can't be 100% the same.
Interesting. You've schooled me as well, I guess, on that.
Yeah, I learned that. It was like, wow, it was really interesting.
So I think you were invited to take part in Innovate Kenya Tech Week.
Sure.
I know you were not there personally, but your team represented. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit and why it's important to have certain platforms like that in Kenya.
I think for us, we got caught up in another project that we were doing, so we were not able to be there. But we fully support the concept around that Tech Week. And again, because I said earlier that right now we are all techie, we've all moved digital, and you can't do that without tech and without innovation. The other thing I've seen of late is that there's lots of innovation with the younger people than there was before, I guess. Either I didn't know it was there or it was not. But I feel like of late it's more. Because even I have noticed that the guys who are creating apps and software, they're young people. And it's a lot. It's a lot more. And so where we are going now in Kenya, not just in Kenya, globally, really, we are moving tech, kabisa. A lot of it is tech. So you need to encourage protection. You need to encourage enforcement, because then if you're infringing, then there's a problem. If you're using other people's work to create, then there's a problem. We need to insist that we have the correct legal environment and policies that support tech.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have, then you'll have a problem, even with investors. Right now, I know one of the meeting I was in the morning was in the American Chamber of Commerce. And I know they're planning something, some event. And one of the things they have been interested, for example, the Americans, is that how is the Kenyan market for investors? The creative industry market, how is it for investors? So if you find an investor from America, for example, who is coming to Kenya and they're ready to invest in your technology, they don't want stolen stuff.
Of course.
They want created, innovated stuff. Yeah. I've participated a bit in Science Congress for high school. And oh my God, there's lots of stuff that's coming from young people in high school. You're just like, wow. I went to a training once and I found this lady who was making sanitary pads from, was that grass or leaves or something? It was just something it was crazy. I was like, wow. I have been in a meeting with Kenya Innovation Agency. They were supporting young people. They have a president's award, something. They were actually giving young people funds to do their innovations.
Oh, interesting.
And I saw this guy who has innovated a program to do, what is it called? You know, this sign language. So that if I'm having a program or something like this, I don't have a sign language interpreter. I have an app,
someone on the phone
that is doing the sign language interpretation. Yeah. And I thought that I was blown away. I thought that was so cool.
It's so funny. I actually had that literal conversation yesterday.
Okay.
But I think it's called assistive technologies, that's specific. So I mean, if you look at all these innovations that are coming up, and of course, the law takes a longer time to catch up. What would you say are some of the most urgent needs right now to be able to protect creators and also to make sure that you have what you need to enforce the laws that you have?
I think the laws that we have laws that you can use for protection. You have patent laws, you have trademark laws. And in fact, I know that Kenya, the Kenya Innovation Agency, was working hand in hand with the Kenya Industrial Property Institute, the ones that register patents and trademarks. And they had given, I think, a waiver for young people. I just don't remember whether it was a high school or college, who are innovating, who are coming up with innovation so that they can patent their innovations, because generally a patent is expensive. Yeah. The good thing is that with the law of patents, you're given a priority date. So if I file today, that's my priority date that I will use. So even if the patent takes 3 years to come through, this is the date we are using as a priority date. So that helps a bit. So I feel like the laws are there. The trick is to make sure that the laws are keeping up with the global trends, with international instruments. And that's where the government comes in. We are supposed to create an enabling legal environment for that protection and for enforcement. With copyright, for example, we have a law that has allowed us to do enforcement, so that is possible. So the only problem is that Kenya Copyright Board doesn't have enough enforcement officers. So one of the things we've been doing since last year is training police officers on the Copyright Act, the offenses in the Copyright Act, the investigation process when it comes to copyright infringement, so that if I have a matter in Kisumu, I'm not carrying a whole team to Kisumu. One person goes, links up with the police there, and they're able to assist you to push that matter. Yeah.
Okay. I think it would be interesting to see what comes out of it, because I think one thing that I never got my head around, more like the source code you're talking about, was NFTs.
Yes.
And you see, creating copyright for those.
Yeah.
I think with the advent of AI, there'll be a lot more things we'll see that we probably had not thought of before. Especially now what you mentioned about, can you give a copyright to some machine or do you give it to the person running the machine? That, I guess, has not been defined yet.
Yeah, exactly.
But going forward, what would you say are some of the ventures that probably some activities that the Kenya Copyright Board is involved in, apart from the enforcement, that you can say will tackle this issue of tech and innovation?
I think one of the things that we've been grappling with is sorting out the issue around having a system that is able to help with collection and distribution of royalties for musicians, for example. And I think that's one area that could be explored in terms of finding tech that is assistive. And I think they're there. Because with collection and distribution of royalties, you need to do monitoring of what is being played, so that I'm able to tell Laura's song was played 2 times at this station and this is how much she earned. And then just being able to say, okay, out of what has been collected, Laura gets at least 70%, because that's the rule in the copyright regulations. That has been a monster in Kenya. Just being able to have that money go back to the musician has been an issue. Last year, there was a presidential directive that Kenya Copyright Board, together with eCitizen and other stakeholders, should work on having a solution. And I think there's a way to leverage on tech tools to be able to do such things: media monitoring, collection and distribution of royalties. One of the things I think we also still have room to work around tech and innovation. I told you our registration went digital.
Yeah.
I think there has been conversations around exploring how to improve that platform. We have a platform that is registering copyright for creatives. And sometimes I get asked questions and I'm like, I wish this platform could do this for me. We have a category we call audiovisual. Audiovisual involves films, music videos. It can be a podcast. But that category in the system is just audiovisual. So somebody asked me the other day, how would I know? Would you be able to know how many films you've registered? And I'm like, oh gosh, I'd have to extract that information. Like you have to go through that and separate and do some. So I was trying to get our IT guys to help me do that. And I'm like, we could improve this platform to the point if I'm looking for this information, it's there.
Especially now there's so many more specific things that you need to do.
I know. One of the other things I've discussed a lot with our IT people is having plagiarism checks, for example, within the platform, so that if I am registering a book, that software can already check for me whether
written by ChatGPT.
You can have, I think that's possible.
Yeah.
Right now, it's not, it doesn't do that, but I think that's possible. So we have had conversations a lot at KECOBO on leveraging on tech and to see how that system can be improved in many more ways. I think the good thing with systems is that you can always improve. You can always improve. I see on my phone, I'm always having updates for apps. Yeah. So that's possible, I think. Yeah. I think that's one of the ways that will really assist us to deliver that service. Yeah. The other thing is that we have been doing enforcement, which has been more physical. But as I said, now we have moved digital. So you also need tools to be able to do enforcement digitally.
So you're slapped with a fine. It comes in your email.
And then you have that would be nice. But I'm wondering how many Kenyans would honor that fine.
Yeah, but if you don't honor it, then we take action, I guess.
Yeah, but I feel like you can still do enforcement, digital enforcement, using the correct tools. I don't know what those tools are, but I know it is possible. I think it is. I think it is.
I think it would be interesting for you to call out, I guess, to I don't know, have a hackathon where you have people coming through and coming up with solutions for some of the problems you need.
Yeah. The other thing I would like to leverage tech on is training, capacity building. This recent program I've been doing, we've had to look for money to go to counties. It costs a lot. But that is another thing I think you can leverage on to capacity build as much as you can. One thing I have learned is that capacity building never ends. Sensitization never ends. And sometimes we need to do it a lot, I have been in this space for 17 years, and now is when I feel like I could tell you stuff off my head. But maybe 5 years ago,
It's a lot.
not, So you still do these things and still do, and sometimes you train the same people, which is okay. But how can I do that faster? How can I do that more? How can I reach more people? You have to leverage on tech and digital tools to do that. Yeah, I think that's also a potential that we can continue to explore.
Okay, I think that pretty much covers it because in this day and age, I think the way almost every single industry is using AI to increase productivity, then there should be a way that the different AI tools that are created specifically for KECOBO that they can leverage on. So as we wind up, is there any other thing that you'd like to tell us about that you're working on that we should know?
Okay, so before I tell you that, the caution, there's a caution a caution I want to put. I was in a meeting and I heard that there are people that use AI to draft contracts for them. And a friend of mine was saying that she was looking through a contract that was drafted and to saying something like, so the laws that are applicable are the laws of the state of Georgia. Like, my friend, you're in Bungoma. So that is a caution that even as we use AI tools to do whatever, you need to be very cautious that you still bring in the human bit. You still need somebody to draft this contract. So you can have a template, you can have an idea, but you still need somebody to do that good work for you. Part of the things that Copyright Board is doing, one, capacity building, we are very big on that because we realize the need for the information. Sometimes some of the matters we have dealt with are just, you can tell, it's just a lack of information.
Yeah.
And so you really need to give out that information. So we are doing capacity building. We always respond to any call as long as it's reachable and we are able to come. We don't charge for our trainings. We just, we'll come and do the training.
Nice.
We will share IEC materials. So any creatives in any space. Today I met someone who does, I think digital content creator, and I was like, this is a group I haven't reached yet. I need these people, So whichever groups, we are very open to that. Of course, registration, I said, is free now. So Laura, you need to register your podcast before we reinstate the amount.
Yeah.
So do that as soon as you can. We also do mediation. So if you have a dispute, we can help you just mediate and sort it out instead of it going to court, because we all know the court process is long and it's expensive.
So it's much faster to do the mediation.
So we also do mediation. Our legal staff are court annexed mediators, and we do that also for free. We also offer legal advice for creatives for free. We can read for you a contract. We can advise you legally.
Oh, that's beautiful.
If it is an issue that needs to go to court, we'll advise you. Go to court. And we can even help you source IP lawyers. The other thing, not everybody, Laura, is an IP lawyer.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
And the one thing I'll tell you about us lawyers, if you bring a matter to me, like today, if you bring me a children's case, I won't refuse. I will take it.
Yeah.
Why? Because I can read the Children's Act. So I will take it. I will go read the Children's Act. Then I will go to my group for my university and be like, guys, who deals with children issues here? Side chat, That's what generally lawyers do. But to tell you the truth, if I've not been in this space, I may not serve you as well as you should, as I should. So it's good to find a lawyer in that space. We also help to do that, but we also give free legal advice. If it is a criminal case, we can take it to court. But civil, we would advise you to maybe sue. So those are part of the services that we give. Our offices are in Shah Building, NHIF. Fifth floor.
Okay.
Any creative is welcome to come. You don't need an appointment. You walk in, you ask, I want to see a lawyer. I need this help with this, you will always receive help because we're government and we are paid to give that service.
Okay.
And we give it for free. Nobody should ask you for money for that.
Money.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess now to wind up for real. You did mention that the only sort of section you haven't covered is digital content creators.
Yes.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Why have you not been able to narrow down on that, and what is needed to sort of make it whole?
What I meant, I just haven't reached that group to train them.
Okay.
And I guess I just know the famous ones, but I'm sure there are so many. And I see nowadays that's a thing. Like just creating content online. And that's a group that has a lot of need. I guess we need just to find out how can I find these people and find the right people.
And let them know that you're there to actually help them in certain ways.
Because one of the things I've noted with them is that when you're creating content, it's very easy to infringe while you're creating. Sometimes I go to train and, there are different creatives and guys will come and say, I'm a dancer. I'm a this. Okay, you're a dancer, but you dance to people's music.
Yeah.
So the moment I create a video, I'm dancing to somebody else's music and I post online, I've already crossed the line. And most of them don't know. So what do you do? How can I protect my choreographed dances? Do I mute myself? Do I seek the permission? Do I create my own music?
That's interesting because now I mean, one of the things that makes things go viral is trends.
Exactly.
So if you have a trend and everybody's doing the same thing, how do you copyright something?
Do you remember the Jerusalem challenge?
Yes.
You are aware that they sued?
Yes.
Yeah. But it was a crazy challenge. It went viral. It was really nice. But it was an infringement nevertheless. It was an infringement. So this is a group that needs to know their boundaries when it comes to creating their content. And that's my work now. I'm looking for them. Okay. I'm looking for them. Okay. I realize there's lots of infringement. And sometimes a lot of it is, I don't know that I'm infringing. Yeah. A lot of it is just that I do not know I'm infringing.
Or I think also there is the aspect of how do I do what I need to do without infringing on somebody else?
Exactly. How do I create without infringing? What do I do when someone infringes on mine? How do I protect myself? Those are the questions that most of them need to answer.
Yeah, because there's also that issue of I did it first.
Exactly.
I did it first.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sharon. That has been quite insightful. There's a lot of things that I didn't know. And I think especially when it comes to the new age of tech and innovation, some of the various AI models that are coming up and some of the, I guess, technologies that are being introduced, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot to learn. And especially when it comes to digital content creators, I think it would be very interesting to tackle that topic further, even just as KECOBO on a personal level.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of young people, especially young Kenyans, that will really benefit from that. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I shall share this podcast so that we're copyrighted. But before then, Karibu sana. I'm sure we'll be able to talk again soon.
Sure. Right. Thank you.